Hi, welcome to Agently. Today we are going to discuss regarding few land acquisition questions based on BDA manual. So let us join in and ask.
Back to our list.
Yeah. Hi, I wanted to ask what are the types of notifications? Quick answer.
That's a really important question to clarify. Based on what we've been reading, the main type we've discussed, preliminary notification.
Yes,
Preliminary.
under Section 17 of the BDA Act,
Section
that's the
17.
initial announcement of
Okay.
the BDA's intention to acquire land.
Mhm.
But as we touched on earlier, there's also the final declaration under
Final.
Section 19.
Exactly, that
Only
comes
two
after
notifications.
considering objections and confirms the
Section
acquisition.
19.
And beyond those two main ones, there could be other notifications related to specific stages or modifications.
For example, if there are changes to the original acquisition plan, you might see a
Mhm.
modification
Okay,
notification.
future modifications.
Or
can be
notifications regarding surveys and land measurements might also be issued.
seen. Okay.
So while the preliminary and final are key, there
Okay.
can be
Two
others
are
depending on
important.
the situation.
Does that help
Okay.
clarify the different kinds
Yeah.
of notifications you might encounter?
And as we were just saying, all of
Yeah.
So where will I know this preliminary notification has been given, the first notification? How should I know that? Any official announcement?
that's a really key question. How do you actually know about these notifications?
Well, as we've mentioned several times, the primary way is through official publication.
Yes, the BDA
Okay.
is required to publish these notifications in the
Mhm.
official gazette.
Think of that as the government's official newspaper for important announcements.
And to make
Mhm.
sure the information reaches a wider audience, they often also publish them in local newspapers.
So
Okay.
regularly checking both of those sources would be the most
Mhm.
direct way to know if your property is mentioned.
Also, sometimes, depending on the stage and the regulations,
Okay.
individual notices might be sent out, but
So,
the official publications
newspapers
are the
and
consistent
gazette
method.
notifications.
It's really important
Okay.
to keep an eye on.
Can BDA acquire DC converted land which is for residential use? Let us see what it will give based
That's an
on.
interesting point. You're asking if the BDA can acquire land that has already been DC converted for
Yeah.
residential use.
And based on what we understand about the BDA's mission, which is planned development, the answer is potentially yes.
Even if your land has been converted for residential use, it could still fall within a larger area the BDA has designated for a new layout.
The key factor is whether your property is within the boundaries of a planned scheme, regardless of its current land use status.
So the DC conversion for
Mhm.
residential use doesn't automatically protect it from acquisition if it fits into a bigger development plan.
It really comes back to those notifications.
Yeah. So I wanted to understand how can I cancel this preliminary notification? Let us see.
That's a really important question. You're asking
Okay.
about canceling a preliminary notification.
Yeah.
Based on the material we've been looking at, once a
Mhm.
preliminary notification under Section 17 of the BDA Act is issued.
There wasn't a
Okay.
straightforward mechanism for an individual landowner to directly cancel it.
The process laid out involves filing objections within
Okay.
that 30-day period we've mentioned.
Within 30
Yes,
days.
that's your formal
Okay.
way to raise concerns and argue
Mhm.
why the acquisition shouldn't proceed.
Your objections would need to be based on specific grounds relating to the
Mhm.
legality or necessity of the acquisition.
The
Okay.
government then considers these objections.
And it's after that consideration that they decide whether to move forward with the final declaration under Section 19.
So
Okay.
while you can't directly cancel the preliminary notification, your objections are a crucial part of the
Objections we
process.
can do.
If your
Okay.
objections are deemed valid, the
Mhm.
government might choose not to proceed with the acquisition of
Yeah.
On what grounds can I stop this notification? Any court order I can place?
That's a really vital question. You're asking if you can get a court order to stop a notification.
The court
Yeah.
cases we've looked at do show instances where notifications have been challenged in court.
Often, these
Mhm.
challenges are based on arguments that the BDA didn't follow the correct legal procedures.
Oh.
Or if there's a claim that the acquisition
Mhm.
isn't truly for a public purpose, as
Okay.
defined by the law.
It's
So while you
difficult.
can't just wave a magic wand to stop it,
Mhm.
seeking a court order is a potential legal avenue.
However,
Mhm.
it typically requires demonstrating that there are significant flaws or illegalities in the notification process.
Mhm.
It's not a simple or guaranteed process, and it usually involves legal representation.
But the
It's difficult
possibility
to
of
get
judicial
denotified.
intervention does exist if proper grounds for a challenge can be established.
Mhm.
You've raised a lot of really important and specific questions.
Yeah, so who will get the compensation? Like what ratio will they get and who will get the compensation? Is it the landowner or if there is a plot, a single plot?
That's a really important aspect to understand.
Yeah, I
The
know.
specifics of compensation, including
Mhm.
any ratios,
Mhm.
aren't detailed in the excerpts from the BDA manual we have here.
Right, this document focuses more on the rules and procedures for land acquisition itself.
However,
Okay.
generally speaking, if your land is
Mhm.
acquired by the BDA, you are legally entitled to compensation.
The amount and how it's calculated is usually based on factors like the market value of the land at the time of notification.
There might also be additional components to the compensation package, but
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, like how many?
that's a really interesting question about the timeline. The documents we have don't specify a fixed number of years
Okay.
after which a notification automatically gets canceled.
What we do see in
Mhm.
some of the court cases
Mhm.
is discussion around delays in the acquisition process.
Yes,
Okay.
there have been instances where long delays have been a factor in legal
Mhm.
challenges.
The courts might consider if the BDA has taken an unreasonably long time to move forward after the initial notification.
Okay.
But there isn't a rule stated here that says after 5 or 10 years it's automatically void. It often depends on the specific circumstances and legal challenges.
So it's not so much about a set time frame as it is about the BDA actively pursuing the acquisition within a reasonable period and adhering to the legal procedures.
Hey, yeah, what's up?
So after preliminary notification, can I sell my land or how it is?
So after a primary notification, if there's a modification,
We would expect the BDA to issue a subsequent notification.
yes, to inform everyone about the specific changes,
And as we've discussed, this would likely be published in the official gazette.
and
Okay.
potentially in local newspapers as well.
These modifications would detail what exactly has original notification.
It's all part of keeping the process formally documented.
Now, you've asked so many important questions today,
We really hope this has been helpful for you.
and hopefully
Sure.
for your viewers
Thank you.
too.
What other questions
Okay.
are on your
Just about to touch on the
So these are the few questions I have asked. There is not much clarity. There is information where it is told that BDA can acquire DC converted land also if a big area is required and a small portion where DC conversion is there. And cancellation, based on the cancellation guide, they have clearly told that it is quite difficult to get it cancelled after notification, because there should be a kind of good grounds where we tell that whatever notification they are giving is of no use, or they are not doing it properly. It is quite difficult to fight against, I guess. Their rules are quite messy type. Okay.
BDA's over. Yep.
Yeah. So which authority is taking care of this? Something BMPC, something I was reading everywhere in every notification. What is that?
That's interesting. When you say BMPC, are you
Mhm.
perhaps thinking of the Bangalore Metropolitan Planning Committee?
It
Yeah.
sounds like you might be encountering information about a related body involved in the broader planning for Bangalore.
Yes, the BDA is a key authority, but the BMPC also plays a role in the overall development framework for
Okay.
the metropolitan region.
They have slightly different functions, though both contribute to how Bangalore grows and changes
The BDA is
Okay.
more focused on the direct implementation of development schemes, including land acquisition.
across different agencies.
Thanks for information. If you have any topic which is very accurate, can you answer based on your discussions, which is very important for my viewers?
You're very welcome. We aim to be as accurate as possible based on the
Thanks.
material we're discussing.
If you have any specific topics in mind related to what we've been discussing, BDA notifications, land acquisition, the legal framework, we can certainly try to answer based on that.
Just let us know what specific area you'd like to focus on, and we'll do our best using the information we've explored
Okay.
together.
And as we were saying just before, while you might see references to the BMPC, it's important to understand it works alongside the BDA.
It's part of that bigger system for guiding how Bangalore develops.
So if you have any other questions, you can let me know. I'll try asking and I can give you the reply in comments, so that let us see how it will help, because there is no much clarity on BDA acquisition and all. So you can ask question in comments and I can post it here and check the answers and reply to you back. So thanks, Agent Lear, property analyst. Thank you.